Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Rob. This is RH Midwest Comics. And today I'm going to take you through some books that I normally don't do a price analysis on. And this is not a price analysis video. I'm really just going to look at the recent Comic Link auction. And if you know Comic Link, it feels like their auctions are just nonstop continuous because there's one going on right now. There was one that ended earlier in the month. So we're going to look at some of those results from earlier this month. And we're going to look at some copper and modern books, right? So if you watch my price analysis videos, I do Bronze Age, I do Silver Age, and then I alternate back and forth between those two each month. But today, I just figured, well, let's look at a handful of books, key issues that are a little more recent. Again, Copper Age and Modern Age. And some people consider Copper Age and Modern Age just to be one big era of books. And some people just call it all modern. But so we're going to look at 5 or 6 books here and just see how they did in terms of sales prices on Comic Link. Because remember, in GPA, and we're going to compare it to GPA, but Comic Link prices do not go into GPA. So I thought it would be kind of neat to see how those Comic Link prices compare to everything else that's in GPA. And remember, GPA is everything off of eBay, Heritage Auctions, Comic Connect, My Comic Shop, and probably some others that I'm not thinking of, or maybe that I don't even know of. But those are the big ones. Okay, so again, we're going to go through 5 or 6 books here, and they're all key issues. Okay, so let's start out with Amazing Spider-Man 252, which is the first appearance of the Black Suit, the symbiote, who eventually becomes Venom. And this is tied with Marvel Superhero Secret Wars number 8. We're going to look at that book as well. And I believe there's a Marvel team up. I don't remember the actual number, but I'll put it up here on the screen. We're not going to look at that book, but let's start out with ASM 252. Here it is, 9.8 white pages. It is also a newsstand. I can't click on it if my cursor leaves the smaller picture, but you can see the barcode in the bottom left. So we're going to look at newsstand prices. So let's go to GPA, and here we go. Yes, I've got it pulled up. So newsstand prices, you can see the trend, like every other comic book in the world, mostly a downward trend, but not a huge drop. And it's probably because the newsstand editions are much less common than the direct editions. So let's look at the recent sales prices. So we've already had 4 newsstands sell in September, and they range anywhere from $1,300 to $1,700. All right. And this one, again, sold for $1,200. So less than everything in September. You have to go back into August to find anything below $1,200. So on the low end, still strong price, but clearly when you look at where this book came from, oops, sorry, that's let me go back to the right one here. Just a regular newsstand edition. When you look at where it came from, it was back in 2022 a $3,100 book. Now down to, well, this $1,200 sale. There was a sale as low as $820 this year, which is interesting. So it's higher than that, so that's good news. All right, so it's ASM 252, and I said we were going to look at Marvel Superhero Secret Wars, 9.8 white pages, direct edition. All right, so here it is. I've got the direct edition pulled up. September sales, and look at that. Look how many sales are in September just for a 9.8. These books are really, really common, you guys. So anywhere from I don't know, $400 to $600. I think that's the highest I see for September, $400 to $600. And this one was exactly $400. Okay, so the 9.8 sold for $400 exactly. In fact, there was another one that sold for $407 and another one that sold for $415, all in the same auction. Another one that sold for 376, and then 425. All these are 9.8 white pages, all in the same auction. My goodness. So, and there's some more that are ending in a few days, but so anywhere from 376 to 425. Again, kind of in that ballpark, maybe on the lower end of the ballpark, if you will. So, this book, like everything else, right? It's going to continue to go down. And if we look at, and here's why. Let's look at the census. There are 6,000 of these books that are in 9.8. Okay. So there's a lot to choose from, and that you're going to see a lot of that with these copper and modern books. Okay. So let's go on to another big one. First appearance of Deadpool, New Mutants number 98. So we had a couple sales here of 9.8s. One of them for $933, one for $1,011. So we'll just call it 1,000. So $933 and 1,000. And if we go to GPA, looking at the direct edition, so here's one for $1,100, $1,250, $1,200, $1,250, $1,100, $1,214. You do have a couple here below 1,000. So I'd say these are on the lower end of the current average, $933 to 1,000. And everything's kind of going for $1,100 to $1,250, at least in the last 4 or 5 sales. So yeah, it's on the lower end. And again, let's just look at it, right? Since we did it on the other books, 4,500 in a 9.8, and most of these are going to be white pages as well. But 4,500 to choose from that are 9.8s here. So expect that trend to continue going down. There's just a lot. There are a lot of these books. All right. Speaking of, I think we're going to find when we look at the census that this might beat them all. Amazing Spider-Man number 300, first appearance of Venom. Classic cover, Todd McFarlane, 9.8, white pages, sold for $2,600. That is low. That is low, because I remember only a few months ago this was averaging about $3,200. But let's see what GPA says. All right. So, yes, this book has really, really dropped. So 2,700, 29, 28, 28, 26, 31, 3,000. So almost right before our eyes, this book continues to drop. And even if we go back to the beginning of the year, like I was saying, 3,300, 35, 35, 36, 38. And, there were some drops in there, but this book was almost constantly above $3,000. And now it's like 8 out of 10 times it's below $3,000, right? And again, this one, $2,600. My goodness. So when was the last time there was a sale below $2,600? So back in August, there was one, another one in August, but a majority of these are over $2,600. So that's low. But again, looking at the trend, it's not stopping, right? You see a little uptick at the end, but this is going to keep dropping. And let's look at the census. So I'm actually surprised. Why was I thinking this book would be significantly higher in 9.8s? So 1,600. That number obviously will keep going up, but it's less than the other ones we've looked at. So yeah, only 1,600. I was expecting a lot more than that. Still a lot of books. Nonetheless, the trend's continuing to go down and probably will keep going down, at least for the near future here. All right. How about X-Men number 266, first appearance of Gambit? I should say arguably his first appearance because of the X-Men annual. I think is it annual 14? 13 or 14, one of those. But if we look here, we got to go down to the bottom here. So this 9.8 direct edition, white pages, sold for $641. And if we look at GPA, so 550, 575, 610, 615, 700. So 645 is definitely higher than the last 4 sales. but it's kind of in the mix. When you look at all of September, it's right in there. Okay, the trend, yes, a very, very slow burn on the downward side, but 640 is kind of right in the mix. So I guess we would call it a strong sale based on recent performance, right? So Gambit doing okay, maybe had a little boost because of the Deadpool Wolverine movie where he made his appearance. It was a really good movie, by the way. All right, so that's that. And then we're going to a true modern book here. Everyone's favorite, and I say that tongue-in-cheek, Ultimate Fallout number 4. And if you look down here, this is the one where the auction is ended. All these other ones are still in process, right? But this one ended back on the 20th of September for $877. It's a direct edition. It's the regular edition, not the variant. So if we want to look at GPA, here we go. Look at this trend. I mean, this thing looks like it wants to bottom out. And let's look at the historical evidence here. So this book at one point in time was a $4,500 book. So it looks like most of them were in the 3,000s, 3,500, 3,600, and then slowly started coming back down. So that 4,500 was probably a one-off, but nonetheless, it was clearly in the mid to high 300s for a while. And now in GPA, everything is selling in the 800s. If you look at the last 4 or 5 sales, 900s, 1,000, but everything is mostly in the 800s. Okay, and so this one's selling for $877 is kind of right in there with everything else. Let's look at the census. I'm assuming the census on this book will be lower than a lot of the copper books that we saw. And of course, I'm wrong. 4,300 books in a 9.8. So that's big. And I don't know what the print run was on this book, but most modern books, right? The print runs aren't what they used to be back in the 80s and 90s, right? The print runs were huge back then. In the 90s, we know they were in the millions, and in the 80s, less than that, but a lot more than we have today. But back in 2011, I don't know. But 4,300, that's a lot. And that's why this book is just going to continue to keep going down. All right. No end in sight with all these books, right? All the trends kind of look the same. If we go back and look, they're all going down and no end in sight. They're not even bottoming out. This newsstand version is probably the most stable one. This was ASM, or no. Sorry, this wasn't the newsstand. This is Marvel Superhero Secret Wars number 8. This was a direct edition, but it looks kind of stable. And then if we go to the newsstand, similar. So the Black Suit books are hanging tough in there. Of course, the 252 is the newsstand edition, so more rare for sure. And I'm curious, I don't think the census breaks it down by newsstand, right? But if we go back to ASM 252 and look, 1,800. And again, I don't know off the top of my head if the census breaks down newsstand versus direct edition. But for what it's worth, that's what it's showing in the census right now. Okay, so that's it. Those are the Comic Link results, at least so far. Again, their auction is still going on. I was going to do a Batman Adventures number 12, but none of them have ended. So there are a few that are ending over the next few days here. But that was another one that I was going to look at. That one has relatively strong sales, though, right? DC just seems to be stronger than all the Marvel books because the Marvel books were so overproduced. But anyway, we'll do Batman Adventures 12 on a different day. Okay, so this was kind of a sneak peek into Comic Link because, again, those sales prices do not go into GPA. So I thought it'd be fun to compare GPA sales versus Comic Link sales. Okay, hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, have a great day.